In 1996, a tragic event shook the small town of Cannon City, Colorado. A young girl named Rachel vanished while walking home from school. Her family was frantic. Rachel was not just a daughter. She was a friend, a bright light in her community. Law enforcement quickly stepped in, searching parks, streets, and nearby woods. They printed posters with her face, asking everyone to help. As days turned into weeks, hope started to fade, but her family never gave up. Gallons of tears were shed, and with each sleepless night, they kept searching for clues to find Rachel. Then, one day, a witness came forward. This person claimed they saw a suspicious car near Rachel's school on the day she vanished. This information was crucial. Police began to focus their efforts on this lead, pulling together a team of detectives to track down every lead connected to that car. Turned out to belong to a local man, known for odd behavior. He had been under the police's radar before but had never committed a serious crime. The atmosphere in Cannon City was tense. Every neighbor hoped for Rachel's safe return. The case sparked conversations about safety and community watch. The local department worked tirelessly as public interest grew. The community held candlelight vigils, praying and seeking solace in each other's company. Rachel's case was not just about her. It became a story of hope, unity, and the fight for justice. As investigators dug deeper, they uncovered a dark history. The man driving the car had a past filled with warnings and minor offenses. Questions arose about whether he could have harmed Rachel. The community rallied behind law enforcement, eager for answers yet fearful of what they might find. Still, many believed in a happy ending. Families prepared food for the officers and spread the word about Rachel's disappearance, hoping to reignite public interest in the search. As the investigation continued, the legal system took note. With growing evidence, detectives sought warrants and evidence gathering, leading to this man's arrest. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation as families, reporters, and community members filled the seats. They wanted to see justice served and to know what really happened to Rachel. Throughout those challenging months, they maintained hope that the truth would prevail, that the legal system would answer their prayers. It became clear that finding Rachel was more than finding a missing girl. It was about a community coming together to seek justice and healing. As the days passed after Rachel's disappearance, the investigation began to take shape. The local police department faced many challenges in their search for the young girl. Initially, they organized search parties that included family members, volunteers, and neighbors. Excited but anxious, everyone wanted to help find Rachel. They searched everywhere, fields, homes, and parks, but with no sign of her. The difficulties soon started to weigh heavily on the law enforcement officers and the community alike, reducing everyone's hope. At the same time, media coverage exploded. Local news stations interrupted regular programming with updates on Rachel's case. They broadcast interviews with her family, showing their pain and determination to find her. The public became active participants, sharing flyers and posts on social media. Support and concern for Rachel were incredibly high, placing pressure on the police to do everything possible to bring her back. But the longer they went without finding clues, the more anxiety built up. Some residents held onto doubts. They wondered if they could really solve the case. Law enforcement faced difficulties right from the start. They had to gather evidence from the last known location where Rachel was seen. They interviewed her friends and classmates who had seen her that day. Many described Rachel as a bright girl with lots of friends. Each interview helped create a picture of Rachel's daily life, yet it was not solving the mystery. These interviews also wrapped the detectives in their own concerns, for they did not want to fail her or her family. Authorities decided to focus on the car linked to the witness's testimony. They visited local auto shops to track down any records related to that vehicle. Turned out the car had been sold several times. Gaps in the records made finding its past difficult. Each false lead was like hitting a dead end, frustrating the officers. They felt the weight of public expectation as deadlines weighed on them. In the meantime, the atmosphere around town was charged. Conversations around town grew louder each day as people struggled with dread and uncertainty. Some suggested conspiracy theories about what happened to Rachel. Others simply could not process the news and shared their worries and support online. With every twist and turn, the police felt the view of the community bearing down on them. They could see the pain in Rachel's family as they worried if they were doing enough. The pressures of keeping people informed while finding Rachel became daunting. Then came the moment that shook the ground beneath everyone's feet. Just when police thought they had a clearer lead, investigators realized the man linked to the car had a history of problems with the law. This twist filled the air with suspicion, though tensions rose as the case began to take on a darker tone. The detectives now faced the challenge of upholding the law while dealing with the man's complex background. As these details emerged, the officers started to feel self-doubt creep in. Had they missed something obvious? Were they going down the wrong path? In quiet moments, they questioned if they could protect Rachel's memory. They reached out to the community, knowing that this was a fight for justice that required the strength of a united front. Hope flared in pockets, but uncertainties lurked around every corner, nagging at their consciousness. The search was intensifying but at a cost, weighing heavy in their hearts, and every investigator was about to realize just how fiercely the battle for justice could be fought. As they pushed forward, their struggle to unravel the truth only strengthened their commitment to find Rachel and bring her loved ones peace. As the investigation into Rachel's disappearance unfolded, small pieces of evidence began to emerge. Law enforcement felt an urgent motivation to connect the dots. Each small win helped lift their spirits. A team of detectives found old surveillance footage near Rachel's school. They discovered a grainy video showing a car that seemed to match the description given by the witness. The excitement in the air was palpable. For the first time, the officers felt hope. They now had a potential lead, breathing new life into a case that had weighed them down. But with this renewed energy came mounting pressure. The police knew that they had to act quickly. They began to work with forensic experts to analyze the footage further. This was a critical moment. They needed every detail they could get. As each day passed, the longing to provide answers to Rachel's family grew deeper. Family members were engaged with the news reports, hopeful yet anxious. They waited for any news that might signal a break in the case while clinging to the hope that their girl would be found. Meanwhile, investigative journalists continued to cover the story passionately. Reporters flocked to the town, seeking interviews and updates on Rachel's case. They gathered stories from the community and highlighted the local efforts to find her. Their articles brought further attention to Rachel's disappearance but also increased scrutiny on the police and legal team. People across the nation were now following the case, their eyes and hearts focused on Cannon City. Media coverage had a dual impact. While it created a sense of urgency around the investigation, it also sparked speculation among the public. Some articles painted theories about the involvement of the suspect without having all the evidence. As a result, the investigators faced an additional challenge. They needed to maintain the integrity of their findings, filtering out distractions while ensuring they did not compromise the case. They battled to keep public interest focused on justice rather than sensationalism. Yet every breakthrough fueled their courage. When the forensic team managed to enhance the video and identify the car's license plate, cheers erupted in the police station. This small win cemented their belief that they were getting closer to the truth. They quickly traced the plate back to the man previously questioned. Now, the police could gather even more evidence against him. In the midst of the chaos, community members grew more involved. They organized rallies and marches, calling for justice. These events flooded social media, showcasing solidarity and love for Rachel's family. This movement behind them amplified motivation, pushing the investigators even further. The stories that flooded in from concerned neighbors illustrated the town's strength. Meanwhile, the legal team began preparing to make sense of all the evidence. They collaborated closely with law enforcement to ensure that everything gathered could stand up in court. Knowing that they needed a solid case left no room for error. Confidence began to grow in the police, and they pushed themselves to rise above their doubts. With each small victory, they felt that Rachel's family would not just find answers, but healing. The weight of responsibility was heavy, but hope lingered and blossomed. As they combated the pressures from both investigators and reporters, their resolve strengthened. They believed in justice and in finding trades of hope woven through the uncertainty. This heartening motivation fueled the investigation, leading them to feel that Rachel's light illuminated the path on their journey to closure. Each detail they retrieved, conviction grew to unravel the truth and restore harmony to a community shaken with grief. The courtroom felt tense as the trial began. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation, and families packed every available seat. Rachel's loved ones sat close together, their hearts heavy but hopeful as they prepared to see justice unfold. The court had become a stage for a battle, each side poised to present their arguments. As the trial commenced, the prosecution shared its case first. They painted a powerful picture of Rachel's life and her tragic disappearance. They brought in witnesses, including family members who testified about Rachel's personality, her laughter, and the way she lit up every room. Their stories moved everyone, tugging at hearts and drawing sympathetic glances from the jurors. Hearing Rachel's story humanized her in a space filled with legal jargon, reminding everyone of the bright young girl they were fighting for. During cross-examination, the defense team worked hard to create doubt. Their attorney questioned the reliability of the witnesses. They argued that memories could be misleading and suggested that the footage viewed in court did not clearly show their client's involvement. Each question was intended to shake the foundations of the prosecution's case. The attorney spoke smoothly, casting shadows of uncertainty. They asked if Rachel's family members were sure about their facts, which sent murmurs through the gallery. The tension escalated when the prosecution introduced evidence that tied the suspect to the area where Rachel was last seen. A detective recalled how they tracked the suspect's movements on the day Rachel went missing. Details like this made the court feel electric, as everyone leaned forward, listening intently. These moments infused the atmosphere with hope, reminding Rachel's family of why they were there. The overpowering strength of this evidence was undeniable. But then came the defense's turn again, and they launched their own wave of challenges. They called various witnesses, including those who knew the suspect before this case. Testimonies painted the man as misunderstood rather than malicious. Each witness emphasized his good deeds, framing him more like a community member than a culprit. The defense aimed to make the jury question their initial impressions. Crucially, they reminded everyone that the burden of proof lay on the prosecution, highlighting innocent until proven guilty. This line resonated in the courtroom, echoing concerns among jurors about confirming guilt without concrete evidence. As the defense brought in their key actor, a compelling moment arose. The defense's primary witness was someone who claimed to have seen Rachel on the very day she disappeared. Their story constructed an alibi for the suspect, suggesting that Rachel had gone a different way and perhaps wandered off. This testimony sent a ripple through the court. Doubts danced in the jurors' minds. Rachel's family exchanged glances, feeling the weight of confusion hanging over everyone's heads. Just when they felt a breakthrough was near, they faced dark clouds of doubt. Every day in court proved to be a relentless challenge that tested their spirits and resolve. As cross-examinations unraveled details, emotional testimonies began to clash with legal strategies, creating a storm of uncertainty. Each side argued persuasively, flipping the narrative with different perspectives. As the trial progressed, it was no longer merely a pursuit of justice. It became a complex game of wits. The struggles faced by the investigators and the pain of Rachel's absence became real for everyone involved. The tension rose palpably in that courtroom, anxiety coiling around like a tight stitch. Observers often held their breath during revealing moments. Every detail presented seemed to morph as the trial revealed fresh struggles, echoing the effort to find resolution in an intricate web of truth and fiction, framing every heartwarming moment with unsettling escalations. The case was reaching deeper into the hearts and minds of all involved, transforming personal pain into a collective quest for justice, as the words spoken in the courtroom played out in front of their very eyes. As the trial progressed, everyone in the courtroom felt the tension thickening in the air like a heavy fog. Each day brought new twists, but now the prosecution was prepared to present their most compelling evidence. On this crucial day, hope flickered as they brought in a young woman who had promised to change everything. Her testimony could potentially turn the tide of the trial and maybe lead to the justice that Rachel's family had been praying for all along. When the young woman took the stand, she appeared nervous but determined. She was a friend of Rachel's who had previously been calm and collected when interviewed at the start of the investigation. Now, standing before the court, she recounted the day Rachel vanished. Her voice wavered, but her memories were sharp, bringing a sense of urgency to her account. She explained how they had shared a conversation after school just days before Rachel disappeared. The young woman revealed that she had noticed something unusual, a man loitering near the school entrance on that day. As she described the man, the courtroom hung on her words. She remembered feeling uneasy, even scared, as she sensed that he was watching the students. For everyone in attendance, this moment felt pivotal. The jurors shifted in their seats, strained to absorb the details that might point to the truth of Rachel's fate. The prosecution could see the hope gesturing brightly in front of them. This testimony offered a compelling context to their case that had been missing until now. During cross-examination, the defense team tried to poke holes in her story. They questioned her reliability, manipulating the narrative in a way to suggest that her fears may have been unjustified. They sought to unearth any inconsistencies, asserting that her interpretation of events was influenced by hindsight bias, the tendency to see events as having been predictable after they occurred. Yet, despite their efforts, the nervousness of the young woman turned into determination. She stood firm against their questions, refusing to back down. The emotional intensity in the courtroom boiled over. Rachel's family exchanged pained glances, and their bodies tightened with anticipation. The witnesses they had heard on previous days felt nearly insignificant now, as this testimony sharply pierced through the fabric of uncertainty that had engulfed the trial. The young woman's courage shimmered in the stark light of the courtroom, and the prosecution team's faces revealed glimmers of hope. As she continued speaking, the courtroom remained locked in silence. The young woman also described a feeling she had, the instinct that something terrible might happen. With each emotional detail, her authenticity flooded through the atmosphere, generating palpable waves of sympathy and raw emotion. Tears grazed Rachel's family's eyes, knowing that every word spoken was another step toward understanding what had happened. As the trial unfolded, it became evident that this was the moment of insight that many had been yearning for. This turning point clarified the stakes, solidifying them. The chilling reality of the case was finally surfacing, as there was rising clarity that Rachel's case might point directly to this man lurking around her school. The evidence began to feel heavy and unrelenting as it pressed on everyone's hearts. Lawyers anticipated how the jury would react, and people in the audience leaned closer, the atmosphere thickening with anticipation like the moments leading up to a great storm. Tension peaked as certain jurors exchanged glances, their faces revealing intrigue and thoughtfulness. Suddenly, everything felt more certain, and the courtroom's rhythm shifted under the weight of this illuminating testimony. The hope for justice felt stronger than ever, igniting the flames of possibility within the hearts of Rachel's family and supporters who had fought tirelessly for her truth. This pivotal moment transcended the courtroom's sterile details as clarity and determination surged forward, making the heart of every listener beat for one simple cause: justice for Rachel. As the trial neared its conclusion, the defense made their closing arguments with an air of determination. The courtroom was filled with hushed anticipation. Everyone sensed the gravity of this moment. The defense attorney paced slowly in front of the jury, choosing each word carefully. They attempted to dismantle the prosecution's case, striving to shift any lingering doubts in the jurors' minds. "Our legal system requires proof beyond a reasonable doubt," the attorney began, their voice steady yet commanding. They highlighted the lack of direct evidence connecting the suspect to Rachel's disappearance. The prosecution has relied heavily on emotion and speculation instead of concrete facts. They have presented a narrative that sounds compelling, but it is just that, a narrative. They emphasize that stories cannot replace hard evidence, a subtle plea to the jurors to remember their oath that demanded unbiased judgment. The defense painted a picture of an innocent man caught in circumstances beyond his control. They reminded the jury that the young man had previously led a quiet life in the community. "Just because he has been accused does not mean he is guilty," the attorney urged. The emotional weight of their words echoed through the gallery and resonated with some jurors as skepticism emerged within the room. Yet the prosecution prepared to counter the closing arguments, presenting their key pieces of evidence in stirring recounts. Their team had worked meticulously to put the pieces together, and they summarized the young woman's powerful testimony and the observations about the suspect near Rachel's school. They reminded the jury that Rachel's life had to be honored, and that her story should give rise to the hope of justice rather than a shadow of doubt. The prosecution's approach invoked memories of community support for Rachel's family, pulling everything together in a powerful effort to claim the moral high ground. After the lawyers delivered their parts, tension surged throughout the courtroom. Everyone braced themselves for what came next, the jury's deliberation. Attorneys, friends, and family could feel the overwhelming pressure in the air. Rachel's loved ones exchanged anxious glances, understanding that they were on the cusp of a pivotal conclusion, a chance for justice and healing. As the jurors filed out of the courtroom to begin their deliberation, emotions ran high. Rachel's family felt a mixture of hope and fear. They had endured long weeks filled with heartbreak, and this moment could bring both a resolution and an opportunity to breathe again. Other supporters clutched hands and whispered prayers, wishing for strength not only for Rachel's family but for themselves, knowing challenges lay ahead no matter the outcome. In those last moments, each person reflected on how this trial affected their lives. Rachel's absence was a constant shadow over the trial, yet her spirit and legacy began to rise among them. Conversations started about support, working together, and creating a future that would honor her memory. The community grew stronger through shared struggles. They were forever bonded by what had occurred and by their love for Rachel. As time ticked on and people waited for the jury to return, the collective wish was for a verdict that would break the silence and restore hope. Memories of laughter and light were interwoven with sorrow, and they offered whispers of courage to hold on. Today was about more than just justice. It was about healing, love, and honoring the vibrant spirit of a girl who had forever changed their hearts. The real challenge of the fate awaiting them would transcend the walls of the courtroom, focusing their shared mission toward community care and understanding, which everyone wanted to achieve. As the heavy door opened and the jury prepared to step back into the room, hearts raced with the profundity of it all. Once the jury delivered their verdict, the room fell silent. As everyone held their breath for the decision, hope and fear intertwined. The gavel struck and the words echoed, "Not guilty." The gasp that swept through the courtroom carried the weight of shattered expectations. Rachel's family felt the ground beneath them shift. Joy and relief seemed distant as they processed the bitter reality of the verdict. Tears began to fall, not just from Rachel's family, but from everyone who had supported her through the long, painful months. For those who had fought for justice, the verdict felt hauntingly unjust. The room filled with a surge of emotions, making it hard to breathe. Some family members clung to one another tightly, offering silent support amid their despair. Thoughts raced through their minds as they reflected on how they had poured their hearts into the trial, hoping for answers but now leaving with a sense of emptiness. In stark contrast, across the courtroom, the accused felt an overwhelming sense of release wash over him. As he sat with his defense team, he appeared stunned but grateful. With eyes wide open, he absorbed the reality that the burden of charges had been lifted from him. Friends and family rushed to congratulate him, but there was a tinge of unease in the celebration. While he was free, the impact on Rachel's family only deepened. They watched in silence, grappling with the collision of relief and sorrow. Outside the courthouse, crowds had gathered, waiting for news. Some held signs demanding justice for Rachel, while others featured the name of the accused. The media buzzed with excitement, framing the trial's end as a pivotal moment within the community. Reporters commented on the verdict, framing discussions around systemic failures in the legal process. In this way, the story expanded beyond the courtroom, echoing into public consciousness and raising serious questions about the fairness of the justice system. Many people had formed strong opinions during the trial. Now, the outcome sparked controversy and debate among the community. The local newspaper printed heated articles, and talk shows highlighted both perspectives. those who believed in the accused innocence and those who felt the verdict failed Rachel and her family. In cafes and parks, residents whispered about their frustrations or relief, revealing the deeply personal connections they felt to the case. This trial highlighted cracks within the justice system that many had been ignoring. Experiences were shared widely, and discussions about victim rights, police procedures, and media responsibility gained momentum. Activists emerged from the shadows, calling for improved support for families affected by crime. Social media buzzed with calls for change, asking for a transformation in law enforcement practices to prevent a case like Rachel's from falling through the cracks again. For law enforcement, the aftermath meant reflecting on their methods and the pressure from community expectations. Officers wondered if they could have done more. The trial forced everyone involved to reassess the tools used in their investigations, ensuring that all evidence was carefully weighed and that no detail was overlooked. The scars that the investigation left were etched deep in the minds of those committed to discovering the truth. As days turned into weeks, the community began to process the trial's end, grappling with how to move forward. Rachel's family engaged in conversations about how they could keep her memory alive. Thoughtful actions blossomed as they initiated community programs aimed at raising awareness about the safety of children and the importance of supporting families during crises. In these small gestures, they began to find strength. Rachel's presence ignited passion in the hearts of those who remembered her. Although the verdict brought despair, it also prompted individuals to unite, striving toward positive change, ensuring that Rachel's case would not be just another forgotten tragedy. Instead, it would become an inspiring beacon for empathy, healing, and community strength moving forward. While the loss felt raw, the fight for justice had awakened something deep within the people of Cannon City, a commitment to work together, holding on to the shared hope that their community would emerge stronger from the shadows of sorrow, honoring Rachel's spirit every step of the way. In the weeks following the trial, the consequences of the verdict reverberated throughout the lives of everyone involved. With the accused acquitted, a cloud of uncertainty shadowed the community of Cannon City. Formerly recognized as a suspect, he enjoyed his freedom, but societal perceptions had shifted drastically. Many in the town found it challenging to separate the accusation from the man. Despite being cleared of all charges, he faced an uphill battle to reclaim his place in a community that now viewed him with suspicion. Whispers followed him in the grocery store, and friends he once held dear stayed distant. As he navigated this new reality, his relationships grew strained. Friends either celebrated his innocence or kept their distance, fearing backlash from those still convinced of his guilt. The accused struggled but sought to find a new path, working to rebuild his life while living under a shadow that would not disappear easily. Each day, he reminded himself of the importance of moving forward, though memories of the trial haunted him. The emotional toll weighed heavily, amplifying feelings of isolation and weariness. On the other side, Rachel's family faced immense challenges of their own. The trial had taken a toll on their emotional well-being. While they prayed for answers, the acquittal felt like a painful blow to their hopes for justice. With no closure, they were left grappling with their grief and heartache, questioning the effectiveness of the justice system. Community members offered support, but healing would take time. They felt compelled to channel their pain into action, focusing on helping others who had experienced similar tragedies. With each endeavor, they began to find purpose, working to raise awareness about child safety in their community. The family started a charity in Rachel's name, aiming to fund programs for at-risk youth. This project, born from heartache, became a way to honor Rachel while allowing her memory to inspire change. Local businesses sponsored events, and community members joined forces, all determined to push forward, knowing that the best way to cope with grief was to transform it into something meaningful. Meanwhile, the public's response to Rachel's case sparked widespread conversations about the efficacy of the legal system, revealing deeper societal issues. Residents were prompted to reckon with the implications of an acquitted suspect, leading many to advocate for reforms aimed at improving victim rights and increasing support for families in similar situations. Advocacy groups hosted community meetings to discuss safety protocols, emphasizing how crucial it is to protect children and families. Law enforcement also reevaluated their strategies from the trial. Many officers sought additional training to navigate investigative processes better, ensuring that they engaged community members constructively without igniting panic. This introspection drove them closer to the citizens they served, fostering connection and improving the public's trust in their actions. Officers attended local events, creating forums where families felt safe to voice their concerns. These efforts aimed to foster collaboration, a crucial step to healing tensions that had risen during the course of Rachel's case. Over time, Cannon City began to transform. While mistakes were made during the investigation and trial, there was significant momentum for progress. Everyone integrated the lessons learned into their everyday lives, shaping new relationships built upon empathy, trust, and awareness. Community members opened up to each other, discussing fears and hopes, and collectively making it clear that they would not let one tragedy define them. The path to healing was often rocky, but the solidarity gained from this experience, slowly woven through their lives, created a tapestry of strength and resilience. For the affected families, the new chapters of life, just like the one they tried to create in Rachel's memory, became crucial to channeling pain into purposeful action, always carrying her bright spirit as a guiding light along the way. Each individual's journey remained unique, but together they shared a story of love, loss, and healing as their community continued to evolve, paving the way toward brighter tomorrows. In the months that followed the verdict, the shadows cast by Rachel's case began to lessen, but the impact of the trial remained palpable in Cannon City. As people processed the outcome, many found themselves confronted with the essential questions regarding justice, community, and healing. The acquittal sparked deep reflections on the legal system. It became a catalyst for change, inspiring citizens to demand reform, not just within their own community, but across the broader legal landscape. Local advocacy groups emerged, mobilizing people around justice and safety for all children. They organized forums to educate families about their rights, empowering them to play an active role in the justice system. Other initiatives aimed to offer resources for families devastated by crime, emphasizing the need for mental health support. Rachel's case had illuminated the importance of being proactive, and communities across the state began to rethink their relationship with law enforcement and legal processes. The justice system itself felt the ripple effects. Following Rachel's trial, there was greater scrutiny surrounding investigative practices, particularly related to how cases involving missing persons were handled. Legislative proposals emerged calling for mandatory training for police officers on best practices when clearing cases involving children. Community leaders rallied together to push important reforms through local councils, aiming to foster an environment of trust and collaborative spirit. The legal discourse around the case gained momentum as legal experts drove discussions about safeguarding the rights of victims. The intention was clear: a more victim-centered approach needed to rise within the system. Lawmakers recognized the importance of addressing these changes and began drafting laws that aimed to enhance protections for vulnerable populations. This gave new hope to families involved, ensuring they wouldn't face the same feeling of helplessness that Rachel's family endured during the trial. Rachel's charity blossomed through all these efforts, mirroring her spirit as it thrived through the support of many community members. Fundraisers, workshops, and awareness campaigns unfolded regularly. Reports of the foundation's outreach began circulating in the media, showcasing how the community honored Rachel's memory in meaningful ways. This focus helped shift public perception from despair to determination, supporting those who needed it most. For Rachel's family, the pain of loss remained, yet they turned their heartbreak into inspiration, continuing to advocate for change. They found strength in sharing their story. Speaking at schools and community events created opportunities for them to keep Rachel's vibrant memory alive, helping others understand the importance of looking after one another and standing for justice. The man who faced accusations felt the weight of his experience long after his acquittal. While he was free, the challenges of people remembering him as the accused lingered. With time, he began to rebuild his life little by little, recognizing that scars would remain. Despite comforting people's fears was hard, he sought counseling and attended community support groups to foster understanding with those around him. It took courageous steps to regain his place among the people, but he understood the path to healing would demand patience and understanding from both him and the community. As Rachel's case continued to shape the future, the community grew more connected. The shared commitment to protecting children strengthened trust between citizens and law enforcement. Together, they learned to overcome tragedy. The families and individuals connected by loss found purpose in their journey, encouraging one another to advocate for those who couldn't speak for themselves. Through their brave actions, Rachel's family, the community, and even the legal system learned invaluable lessons. The resolution of this difficult saga sparked significant shifts that transcended beyond the courtroom. By fostering empathy, encouraging reforms, and uniting voices for justice, they forged a promising path forward. Though Rachel's absence was deeply felt, her spirit lived on through the love and action poured into making the world safer and fairer, a living testament to the profound impact one life can leave behind. Each face the community carried held hope, reminding them of the importance of change and the ever-present pursuit of justice intertwined with compassion, growth, and optimism.